Welcome back to Photoshop. So today we're going to take a look at dodging and burning, but not the traditional dodging and burning, which uses the tools that are located over here in the toolbar. I'm going to show you how to use dodging and burning, but do it non-destructively. The problem with using the traditional method with the tools over here, they are destructive. So once you have applied them, you cannot go back unless you have your history states up. In this method, we're going to create layers over here, and we're going to use those layers to dodge and burn. Now let's take a look at the dodging and burning tools really quickly. So I'm going to go over here to Essentials. I actually don't use the dodging and burning tools. So this first one is this little hand, and the hand is cupped with a hole in the center. And the idea behind that is back when you used to have a darkroom and you'd use film, if you wanted to make an area darker, you would cup your hand and let the light only shine through to a specific area. So we would say, maybe we want to make this area darker. So we would just let the light come into here and that would burn in that area. And then you would have a dodge tool, and it's kind of like this little cursor. And so I would take that dodge tool and just move it slowly over her face, and that would block the exposure from getting on her face, thus making that lighter. The problem with the dodge and the burn tool is they work really good, but they are destructive tools. So right here, the dodge would make something lighter. So we're going to say we could either go in the highlights, the midtones, or the shadows. I'll just do the highlights for now. We'll just go over that. You can see it made that area lighter. If I switch over to the burn and I go on this side, it's making that area darker. Now, this works great. However, you can't undo that after you save this or you run out of history states. So I'm going to come up here and go to revert, and that's just going to send me back to my original space. And we're going to take this, I'm going to go back to my traditional palette. You can do this as an action. So what I will do is I will drag my actions over here, and we'll get off button mode. We're going to do this in image effects again. So we're going to go to new action, and we're going to call this dodge and burn. Set it to image effects. We will make the color gray, no function key, and then we're going to hit record. Now I'm just going to move this out of the way so it's not being seen right now, but it is going to record. The first thing we need to do is make a curves adjustment layer, but we're not going to click up here because I want to do some naming. So I'm actually going to do it the slow way. So we're going to come up here and go to layer, new adjustment layer. We're going to do curves. Now we're going to name this curve dodge. That's going to dodge or lighten this area. Now I want to change that blending mode to screen. Screen is going to lighten the image, and then I'm going to hit OK. Now the reason I did this way is because it automatically labels, so it's easy to see. I'm going to hit Command I to invert that because we don't want it to affect the image. We're going to do the same thing over again, but we're going to change the blending mode to multiply this time. So we're going to go to curves. We're going to call this burn. Change the blending mode to multiply, and we're going to hit OK. You don't have to change the blending mode. You could actually just take the curve and make the curve darker, but we're going to use the blending mode just because that's the way I did it. But if you feel like doing it the other way, that's perfectly fine. We're going to invert that, and then I'm going to shift click and select both of these. I'm going to hit group. I'm going to call this group dodge and burn. Return, and then I will drag this back over here and we will stop recording. Under image effects, I'll switch this back to button mode so we can see right here is our dodge and burn. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this for now. And now if I click that dodge and burn, you can see boom, it's automatically created that, and that totally saves a lot of time. If I open this up, everything is its default. And now it's in a stage in which we're ready to work. If I want to lighten an area, I'm going to go to dodge. I'm going to grab my brush tool, make sure the color white is selected. And once again, you're going to see me use flow. You can set the flow anywhere you want, but the lower you set your flow, the less it's going to affect your image, and it allows you kind of build up. So now you can see I can just brush over this image and that is lightening that area. Well, why is it lightening it? Because this is dodge. We're blocking the light from hitting it. And the cool thing about using a mask is if I do too much, I can flip my color back to black. I can go in here and I can paint it back out of certain areas. Now, if I want to burn or make an area darker, so let's say I want to make this shoulder a little bit darker, I can flip the color to white because that's going to show the effect, and I can burn that in. If I want to make her hair or this background a little bit darker, I can just paint that in. So if you look at this mask, see, it's very soft and subtle. It's not like I'm applying 100% of this. You can also, once you've done this, lower the opacity of that layer to get less of an effect. So you have a lot of control over your dodging and burning inside of the image to control whether you're darkening or lightening an area inside of the image. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to hit Shift Delete and I'm going to change this to white. And I'm going to show you on one, but you can do this on both. So another thing that you can do on dodge and burn, rather than actually painting into the mask, and you can actually go in and paint into the mask, you can create a luminosity mask as well. So remember, we are burning, meaning that we want to darken in certain areas of the image. Well, I can create a luminosity mask to do that. So I can come up here to Image, drop down to Apply Image. I want Merged, RGB, Multiply, and then if I select Invert with a check, it is affecting the shadow areas overall. I can hit OK. So now it's creating a mask, and because we're using Multiply, it is darkening the areas inside of the luminosity mask. It's not really affecting my highlights because I told it not to. And then I can just dial this back until I get enough of that affecting just my dark areas. Now, we don't need to create another luminosity mask. We can hold Alt Option, drag this down. All luminosity mask is an invert of each other. So if I hit Command I, it inverts it. Now it's only affecting the highlight area. So this is actually the mask, not the image. You can see this is where this area is going to be lightened. So by using that mask, I can drop this down and get less of effect. So here I've done dodging and burning with the luminosity mask. Hopefully this has been helpful. There are definitely a few other options when it pertains to dodging and burning, but that is the basics of how to dodge and burn using non-destructive layers inside of Photoshop. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.